Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I am under no illusion that what I'm about to say or what anything you've already heard is going to change your mind. But what you've heard so far happens to be the objections based on Democrats to this bill. So what I want to talk to you about is why the Republicans ought to be against it. You might ask, well, why? How do I know? Well, let me say this to you. I think one of the things the Republican Party has to do is to expand its base. And what you're doing today doesn't accomplish that. What you're doing is shutting off people. And if you really think that your survival depends on closing the doors to voting, you will become extinct. And I guarantee it. And so what you ought to do is say, look, we ought to open voting up to everybody we can, because you believe, as Republicans, that your ideals are the ones that makes Texas great, that makes America great. And if you don't believe that, then you need to close it off. Then you need to stop people from voting. You need to object to the fact that more people vote, because you don't believe necessarily that your principles are the ones that causes this state and the people in this state to become the great state of Texas. That's why Republicans ought to be against this bill. And I know some of you are not listening, some of you are not thinking. So I'm talking to the ones that recognize that, wait a minute, we as Republicans ought to be doing something that expands the opportunity for people to be a part of this party. And nobody's going to be, you can limit voting, and that's essentially what this does. But if that's your best way of accomplishing the Republican objectives, I guarantee you, you are on a course to become like the dodo bird and be extinct. I guarantee it. And so I'm asking you that if you are a Republican who thinks that, wait a minute, we need to open the doors to voting as opposed to closing the doors to voting, you ought to vote against this. And so with that, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for giving me an opportunity to share. I have lots of friends who are Republicans, members. I have a lot of friends who are Republicans. And I have talked to them, and they are of the same opinion that I just told you. I talked to one of them just a moment ago, and he's like, well, why are they so interested in closing off voting? I said, because they think that instills their continued being in the majority. No, what you are going, the only way you're going to be in a majority is you're going to have to expand your base. And you don't expand your base by limiting the rights of people to vote. The only way you're going to do that is you're going to create opportunities for people who somehow or another don't have those opportunities. Go back and look at your history. My people were Republicans. And what happened? What happened is we started to get to elected offices. They elected a governor in Louisiana who was black, who was a Republican. Almost all of them were. And because somehow or another, people didn't realize that, wait a minute, we needed to open our doors to create opportunities for more black people to come into our party, they started to close the doors. That's what you're doing again. That's where you are now. You are beginning to close the doors to this party. And so I'm guaranteeing you, as I'm standing here, all you need to do is keep doing that, and you will become extinct. Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members.